It's Talk Erie and the Joel Natale Show, live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio here at 5th and State. We're also live on Facebook and on YouTube. We're having the crucial conversations that Erie needs, and we're super glad to welcome back, who came with goodies, mind you, the executive director of the Erie Philharmonic, Bobby Pape. Good to see you, Bobby. Appreciate it.
Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here, and we're going to talk music. We're going to talk the new pops and the new symphonic series, but let's remind folks the amazing asset that this Erie Philharmonic is.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Is it 100 years plus now?
Yeah, we're 113, 114 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Make sure I get that count right. We'll be 114 when this new season starts in the fall, but of course we've still got some of our spring season left as well.
Right.
And we've got a lot of pieces that people don't think about all the time. So first and foremost, of course, our season on the Warner Theater stage, which we're always glad to do. We've got a 10-concert subscription series. We've also got our Philharmonic Chorus, which is now about 150 singers strong of volunteer singers here in Northwest Pennsylvania, all local volunteer singers, high-level volunteer singers with our great choral director, Tom Brooks. We've got our ever-growing youth choirs of many levels from, you listeners can't hear me, but yay tall, real short, all the way up through high school. That seems to be growing every year. I asked our education director today, Lisa Herring, how big she thought we'd be in the fall. And she thinks we're about to crest over 100 singers in the fall.
That's
kids.
Incredible.
And then we got about 150 kids in our great junior Philharmonic, all the way from the youngest all the way up through high school. And, they have grown leaps and bounds in recent years as well. I keep telling folks, not only is it an incredible orchestra and a great training ground where these kids get to study with great music teachers from across the region and some of our players from the Phil, it's probably, I have to imagine, also Northwest Pennsylvania's largest after-school music program. So, between all those facets and our in-school education programs and our other stuff, we're always somewhere doing something, and that's what makes it so much fun to be here.
I say that we have to honor those who came before us, and I think about the people that said Erie's important enough to start an orchestra.
Yeah.
113, 114 years ago.
Yep.
That had to be pretty significant, and you had to have the patrons to do it. Yep. And so on.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. I think about this as a manager a lot. Our jobs, and I know our great music director Daniel Meyer, who, by the way, just signed a 6-year contract extension, so Fantastic. We're not letting him go anywhere anytime soon.
That's
His
amazing.
20th anniversary season's coming up this fall. We all strive to leave this better than we found it. I don't just mean the orchestra, I mean the community, right? That's our job here. We're a social organization. Our job is for the common good of the community. We do that through music the same way Second Harvest does that through food insecurity remediation, the way the Downtown Partnership is looking to revitalize what we see down here. We are all in a common goal of making this a great place to live and a little bit better. So the executive directors who came before me all furthered us, and I look at the ways I can do that. Our music directors do that. Our musicians do that. Our education folks, our fundraisers, our marketing people. That's the goal. Get more people to appreciate orchestral music and what it can do for the region. And that's why we've had so much success. It's why the orchestra keeps getting better. We're better every year. We're stronger every year. And we keep bringing in big audiences because we get a lot of people who appreciate that.
I'm thinking that Daniel either has already surpassed as the longest tenured musical director, right?
Yeah, he has. Now, we've had other, phenomenal... people always think of people like A.G. Owe, who was here for only 4 seasons and had a massive outsized impact on the orchestra. Those are those landmark moves we make. Walter Hendel, Fritz Mahler, these guys who came through the years who have these long-lasting resonance. Daniel, I think, deserves perhaps the most credit in just being a strategic builder. People ask me all the time, we have a lot of players who come in from out of town to be a part of what we do and say, well, why would they come to Erie? I said, well, because they want to play with a music director who's a great programmer and a great leader on stage. They want to play with great players next to him, shoulder to shoulder. And we just keep getting stronger because of his leadership and because of the great musicians we have. So every time we open up for auditions, we get an even better player coming in. Every time we need a sub, we get a strong sub coming in. So it's just this rolling thing that's just picking up more steam as it goes. And it's, to all of our betterment. It makes my job easier because I get a better orchestra to sell.
You mentioned that he's an excellent programmer. I think that's a distinctive that can't be lost on folks. You got to know your audience. And I'm not saying that we have to do Beethoven, Brahms, and Bach every time.
Yep.
But we do like them. But we also like some of the more obscure composers. And there's a nice mix there.
Yeah, and that comes down to trust, right? If
There
he
you
was
go.
brand new and we didn't know him, you might be a little more skeptical. But we get a lot of folks who buy tickets because they know if Daniel puts it on stage, it's going to be good. And he's earned that through years of great programming. So sometimes it's also in the complimenting. We'll get into the list later, but we're doing the Four Seasons next year. It's been a while since we've had Vivaldi on our stage. It's a piece that people know and love, and maybe you know it because you love symphonic music and you know the repertoire, or maybe you just love it because you watch The Chef's Table and you know that movement that they use in the intro. It's one of those pieces that resonates because it's in pop culture. Yeah. But then there's this piece by Gina Stara on that program that no one will have heard of unless you're like a real hardcore symphonic music fan. That's a piece that's special. It's a piece that's really massively difficult. I would say that this orchestra maybe 25 years ago wouldn't have tackled something like that. It exposes a lot of players. 12 of our principal players from the orchestra step out in solos in that piece, in solos and duets. And for them, it is a special opportunity to be seen and heard, stand out among their peers. And that's the kind of thing that you can only do when the orchestra's that good. And it's the only orchestra piece that you can do when you've got a director who would think to do it that way. Mm-hmm. We're not going to sell a lot of tickets on the Gina Stara. We're going to sell a lot of tickets on the Vivaldi.
On the Vivaldi, yeah.
But they're going to get to walk away having experienced that. And the other piece on there by Brower, she's a contemporary composer living in the Great Lakes region, living composer, recent piece. It's called The Art of Sailing at Dawn. And when we asked Daniel, well, what does that piece sound like? Nobody's ever heard it here before. And he said, well, it sounds like Sailing at Dawn. So if anyone at the Yacht Club is listening, we'd love a sponsorship.
There you go.
And again, but it resonates with where we are and where we're from. A music director from another place who's just parachuting in, who lives halfway across the world may not recognize that that'll resonate in Erie. But we got in Daniel a guy from Cleveland who works in Pittsburgh. He understands the ethos of our community. And plus, because he's been here for so long, he's gotten to know our audience really well.
Let's talk about individual musicians for a second.
Sure.
Again, one of my favorite YouTubes is to watch orchestras.
Yeah.
There's I spent 2 hours the other night watching the Deutsche Radio.
Sure.
I'm imagining it's a German radio orchestra.
Yep. Imagine if our radio stations had resident orchestras.
They were fantastic and very animated. It was super cool to watch. But I'm thinking about the investment, not only in time and talent, but just in instruments of those key players, the oboist, the principal, the concertmaster on violin one. I mean, talk about some of the folks. Tell some stories, if you would.
Sure. I mean, it's fascinating. People know Stradivarius, right? Those are those famous violins, those most expensive violins. I've worked with soloists who... most of those most top line instruments, musicians are not wealthy people, generally speaking. There's a few out there, those top lines. We have our Taylor Swifts. But, a lot of these musicians are fledgling players who've chosen to go to conservatory because they like long hours and low pay as part of their career choice instead of, going into fields where they might make lots of money. In fact, a lot of these great musicians are polymaths. They could have gone to medical school or law school or something, but they chose to go to conservatory instead. They're not rich people. A lot of those instruments are actually on loan from old school rich patrons or societies that own them and things like that. And I won't name any names, but I did work with a soloist many years ago who shortly after appearing with an orchestra I was working with at the time, left his Stradivarius in the back of a cab.
Oh my, wow.
Did manage to get it back, although it wasn't much longer before the owner said, maybe we're going to go ahead and let somebody else play that instrument now. Good musicians can make any instrument sound good, almost any instrument sound good. You could be playing on a Fisher-Price set or you could be playing on a Stradivarius, but you do start to learn what fits you. And what's interesting to me is, our concertmaster now has an old, elegant instrument, but also plays on a new instrument made by a new luthier. And he enjoys that was sculpted with him in mind and that there's a certain amount of give and take there, that was fitted to his style of playing and the way it fits him. And you're actually going to hear him on display next season. He's a featured soloist next season. So you're actually going to get to see Jimmy Thompson, our great concertmaster, step out into a solo spotlight.
Fantastic.
But it's a lot of that matchmaking. It's sort of like Harry Potter and getting your wand. It's not just about having the best instrument. It's about having the instrument that fits you, whether it's $1,000 or $100,000. Now in high school, one of my best friends was a harpist and she went to Eastman for harp. And also now she's a math professor. She decided she wanted to take her polymath skills toward another field that doesn't pay, higher education. It was so funny in high school. She drove around in a Ford Taurus station wagon that had been, she's, like a lot of harpists, she's like 4.5 feet tall. And she had this little rolling bed that pulled out of the back of her car because she had to be able to flip a $40,000 harp into a $20,000 car.
That's unreal.
And so she had to be able to maneuver getting this thing around from gig to gig. But that was the instrument that fit her, and she was able to make that happen. I'm just glad that I play a computer keyboard and a phone, and my luxuries are if I spend $1,000 on a new laptop.
Yeah, right. I mean, you think about, again, reeds, you think about the horns, what you and put into a French horn or a tuba.
And we don't subsidize those things. There are some great loan funds out there for professional musicians and fledgling musicians. There are great opportunities for them to do that. And there are some patrons that take artists under their wings, kind of.
And you have, the Phil owns don't you own the bells and
we own a lot of the
tips,
a lot of the percussion, a lot of the stuff that you can't lug around.
Right.
We have quite a spread of percussion, and that, in fact, has been made possible through the years through great patrons who have very specifically donated for that. Similarly, some of those other big stage instruments are made possible. Our Steinways are stunning instruments that have been made possible by philanthropists. A Steinway piano can cost you $100,000, $150,000 now. Oh, but when you're bringing in a world-class pianist like Sean Chen, who's going to be with us in a few weeks here on the 21st to play to play the Ravel Piano Concerto on a concert that also features the New World Symphony, that's just coming up here next weekend. You don't bring in someone like Sean Chen and then ask him to play a beater. You don't want him to come in and play Grandma's old spinet. He'd make it sound better than you've ever heard it before, but we want to make sure that it meets the level of quality of the musicians we're putting on stage.
It kind of reminds me of that scene from the Green Book, where the professor, he wanted to play on a Steinway, and you better go get one.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're an official Steinway artist, you better not be playing anything else, or Steinway is going to come get mad at you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bobby Pape is our guest here. Stay with us. It's Talk Erie on a Wednesday. Bobby Pape is our guest. He's the executive director of the Erie Philharmonic, and we're just kind of celebrating that this gem is here with us here. But you know, it doesn't come without its challenges. We had a water main break at your building here. A lot of folks have heard about it. They're hoping that everything is working out okay for you.
We're doing all right. For folks who are aware, you know, we happen to have owned the building between our office and the Playhouse. It was donated by a great local philanthropist actually before this all came to pass. And so we were lucky to have a place to shelter, basically, and head on over. So for folks coming down for tickets or to come on and drop a visit, we're now at 17 West 10th Street, right next to the Playhouse, just the building between our old office and the Playhouse. And of course, we love our neighbors over at the Playhouse. It's nice to be in a little arts district over on 10th Street.
Exactly.
But it was the Saturday before Christmas when it wasn't even a water main. It's sadder than that, actually. It was a water heater, about 20-gallon water heater the size of a home propane tank for your grill, on the third floor. All it was doing was providing hot water to a couple of bathroom sinks. And it just, overnight, from Friday into Saturday, just had catastrophic failure, and it was spewing water. Friday night, we had a rehearsal dinner down in Miser Place, and everything was fine. Saturday morning, the cleaning staff came in to tidy up from the night before, and there was a river coming down the stairs when they came in. Goodness. They called one of my staffers who called me. I went in, and sure enough, the thing had probably been gone for 8 to 10 hours, just spewing. People on camera can see me kind of...
Yeah.
And it had just done extensive damage. So that building at 23 West 10th, it's a 4-story building. The 4th floor is our great tenants, the Escape Game. They were fine, except that they couldn't access their space for a few weeks. The 3rd floor, we had a few inches of water just standing. And the best part is when the staff was cleaning out the 3rd floor, one of the things they found was a box of wet floor signs. One of my favorite pictures, we'll save it for the scrapbook, is somebody just took one of them and plopped it in the middle of the 3rd floor lobby. The 2nd floor, sadly, the water had come down through the ceiling, down the walls, all that. We were talking about Daniel Meyer's score library got particularly wet. And some of the scores were beyond saving. Others we were able to fan out and dry out and save. My office, most of our admin offices on the 2nd floor were washed out. Thankfully, the orchestra library was at the other end of the floor, and it was spared, so the big music for all the musicians was okay. And the 1st floor, which a lot of people know, Miser Place, the old, dress shop and organ supply, all these different things that's been through the years, that was really damaged. And that's really the most historic part of the building. That I don't know a lot about architecture, but I am an admirer as an amateur enthusiast. 23 West 10th is, I believe, the only Sullivan-esque style office building skyscraper, quote unquote, skyscraper in town. And so we're really trying to focus on the historic preservation aspects of that. But unfortunately, the parquet floor in that room was destroyed because of the water getting sopped into it. And it just was too far gone to save. We tried very hard. And the one place we had asbestos was the ceiling tiles in that vaulted 1st floor. They were falling from the ceiling as they were getting wet and melting off the ceiling. And it took us a couple of weeks to dry it out enough to safely be able to assess that. So Service Master came in. They were great. We had a guy named Matthew from Service Master who basically lived in the building for the first month. He skipped his family Christmas trip and stayed and just managed the whole thing. We had a trailer in the back with a generator hooked up to it that was just pumping plastic tubes of hot air through the building for 6 weeks at 90 degrees. And we just saturated it with as much hot, dry air as we could. They were able to save the old plaster walls. The building's over 100 years old by puncturing it to get the air through like Swiss cheese. So if you go through now, there are places where they took utility knives and just stood there, stabby, stabby, stabby. And places where they took drills and just drilled holes like a cork board, pegboard. So what's left is what looks like things that are scarier than the Escape Game, which I think is funny. People walk through to go up to the 4th floor. And now we're talking about how best to handle the restoration side of that. But, thank goodness for the building we had. Thank goodness for our patient patrons who were kind to us over the holiday break as we were rebuilding a little bit. And, thanks to great insurance.
Yeah. So the computers are working, the sale, all the box office.
Yeah,
and all that.
we lost a couple computers, but everything was in the clouds and nothing other than hardware. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was there, that kind of stuff where it was fine.
A pesky little 20 gallon. Wow.
The damage that water can do. If you talk to remediation experts and restoration experts, they'll tell you fire's terrible, natural disasters are terrible. Water is probably at the top of the list because it just gets everywhere.
I heard something about Junior Phil instruments. Were they okay?
There were some Junior Phil instruments in the line of fire.
Okay.
Thankfully, insurance has been good about replacing those. We bought a bunch of new cellos for the kids.
Oh, wow.
Unlike our professional musicians who all own their own instruments and do all their own upkeep, we do a lot to support kids who maybe wouldn't have the funds to get their own instruments. So we have a core of loaner instruments, and we were able to replace a lot of those. We had an electric keyboard that needed to be replaced. But again, things can be replaced, people can't. So at the end of the day, if a disaster is going to happen, we'll always hope it's instruments before it's people.
While we're on people here, I've just got a couple minutes before the bottom of the hour.
Sure.
What does it take to put on a concert on the weekend? What kind of... I mean, who's on stage?
Yeah.
Who's backstage? Who's handing out the brochures and the programs? And
it's funny. I often equate this to a heist team. So if you want to think about your favorite heist movie, you've got to have
Ocean's 11.
Exactly.
Right?
You've got to have your hacker and your explosive expert and your lock picker and your getaway driver, and it takes all kinds. We've got a lot of specialty skills among our ranks. So backstage, we, from our team, have stage management and operations directors and the people who schedule all the musicians and deal with all their housing and make sure that they've got their music. We have a full-time librarian, things like that are just handling that. Then, especially at the Warner Theater, which is a union house, which we love our unions, we have the local IATSE union stagehands who are awesome, and they know us so well, and they know everything we need, and we can give them our rough plans, and they will... I have an old...
And they finally have a space that works for them.
Yeah,
too,
exactly. I mean, the work that they did at the Warner, we can't say enough about that. I wasn't here before the restorations, but I've worked in a lot of similar theaters. They listened to what would make an orchestra go from sounding good to sounding great, and they did it. They blew out the back wall. They got us a great shell. I used to work with a colleague in Albany, New York, who worked with an old stagehand, and so third hand, the expression that the stagehands used to use for us, and I actually have it emblazoned on a mug from my time there, is, "You dream the dream, and we'll build the nightmare." And that was their way of saying, anything we need, they'll figure it out. Yeah. And the number of times I've seen stagehands come up with intuitive, ingenious ways to work something out, things that should be mathematically, theoretically, physically impossible. So we're blessed with them. And then the front of house staff, the Warner 2, which are all Erie events crew, everything from, making sure the lobby's ready for us, concessions are open, all that stuff. For our part, we run our ticketing system. So we work in a symbiotic relationship with them. I've got a box office staff that makes sure that our tickets are sold, our subscriptions go out. We're doing subscription renewals and acquisition for next season right now. So, subscribers all get their stuff in the mail and their letters and their chance to renew. If you'd like to subscribe and you weren't a subscriber before, eriephil.org. We can take care of you. We'd be happy to. And we'll talk about the upcoming season a little bit here. Then we've got, of course, our army of fundraisers. The economic model for this doesn't make sense. There's a reason why Ticketmaster is not trying to take over all the orchestras in town, right?
Right, I noticed that.
We do not live on a revenue forward mission. It's so, our ticket sales cover about a third of our costs, and that's an industry standard. The other 2/3 is individual giving, great philanthropists, major donors, sponsors, some government support, things like that. And that takes an army of fundraisers, relationship builders, and that's my job, as an executive director, is basically chief ambassador, fundraiser. I work with a great development team, great marketing team to make all that happen. And then we've just got the people who fix all the little things.
And do you have to dip into the endowment much?
Well, we get to use the endowment's spinoff, and we,
okay. Yeah, the interest.
Thankfully, it grows faster than we spend off it, which is the right way to do it. And so every year it has a little bit more to offer us. And our goal for the years to come is to grow that endowment so that we have a bigger base to build on.
I should be playing classical music, but I'm playing my typical bumpers here. Bobby Pape is with us, live from our Kingdom Financial Group studio. It's the Joel Natale Show. We're talking about the Erie Philharmonic. He's the executive director, and it's time that we got to jump into this series here. And we're going to
do a rock tribute to Survivor. We'll do Eye of the Tiger straight through.
Here's the thing. You do really exceptionally well in the pop series.
Yeah.
Movie music and many of our bumpers are 80s movie songs, okay? Yeah. So let's start with pops because I think that's important. Well, okay, let's talk about pops still before the new season starts. What do you got left?
All right, so we just a couple of weeks ago here did 2 basically sold out shows of Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark live to film. If you've never experienced a live to film, and we've got one coming up next year too, that means the orchestra's on stage playing the soundtrack live while the movie is projected on a massive screen overhead. And of course, the Warner Theater has a long and rich history of playing movies. So It's wonderful to get to embrace that part of that theater's history. And if you've never heard it done that way, especially with these great 20th century and 21st century symphonic orchestral movie writers like John Williams, like Danny Elfman, which we'll get into in a couple minutes here, it takes it to a whole nother level. It's so cool. And, if for any time we're doing some very serious work like Four Seasons or one of the great symphonies we're doing Tchaikovsky for at the end of the symphonic season next year, that's a world of experience in and of itself. But I'll tell you, when I was in rehearsal for Raiders of the Lost Ark, I don't always go to rehearsal. They don't really need me in the way there most of the time, but sometimes I go and I visit with everyone. I found myself sitting in the house as they were rehearsing for Raiders, and I'm watching this. One of my favorite movies. I've been telling everyone I genuinely had a crush on Marion when I was a kid.
Me too.
And I'm sitting here watching, and I think to myself, wow. And then I realize I'm a third of the way through the movie in rehearsal. I've been sitting there for 40 minutes because it's just captivating to experience it that way.
Now, is it considered challenging to do movie music?
Exceptionally. And it's an underrated thing to recognize because not only do you have to play this incredible, complex music where they played it in a studio in LA somewhere 10 seconds at a time, and then they pieced it together. Yeah. Nobody expected people to play this straight through without a break. Your brass players, especially with the John Williams music by the end, I mean, their lips are ready to fall off because in studio, they had weeks to get this right. We got to do it on one shot in real time. And then for the conductor, you have to follow the exact tempo of the movie. So you can't, if you're doing Tchaik 4 and you decide, well, we'll take it a little slower this time, we'll take it a little faster this time, and everybody's following, you don't get that liberty. So Daniel Meyer and any other conductor who does these, and it's a skill. Not every conductor can do this well. He has a score. He has in his ear a click track.
I was going to say, does he have a click track?
Sounds like a metronome, and it's just, and it's following the movie. And then he has a TV screen in front of him where the movie is showing live, and there's a bar swiping across the screen in every beat so that he can follow it with the movie too. And to think, I think about organists who can play with their hands and their feet, or pilots. If you fly a Boeing, you've got to be able to steer with your feet and your hands at the same time. Those are it's like patting your head and rubbing your belly. I don't know how they do it. I can barely walk. But these guys figure out a way to do it. And then the players all have to follow in perfect time. It's actually harder than most things we do. And you'd think, oh, it's just a movie, it's going to be easy. No, it's actually exceptionally difficult. And it really puts their virtuosity and their discipline on display.
I know this is going to sound like very geeky, but generally, doesn't a conductor give the cue slightly ahead of the beat? So you'd have to almost project it.
Yeah, it's infinitesimal, right? And it's like, how long does sound take to travel versus light? I mean, these are the things you come to.
Oh my gosh.
But it is that level of precision. And you asked me what's coming next. Let me get ahead to that.
Yes, please.
So we have a couple things coming up. On the symphonic side, I mentioned it earlier, we've got the New World Symphony is coming up on March 21st, Saturday night. And that, of course, has a great Erie connection because Dvorak, especially the first movement, was inspired by Harry Burleigh.
Yes.
Burleigh's art songs, and they worked closely together, and you feel it, the way that it's infused into that. Dvorak wasn't writing about America. Dvorak was writing about the American dream. Essentially, he was writing about the sights and sounds of America as a European who came over here. And so, to me, Dvorak is writing a postcard about all that is great about the potential of our future in America and in the world through these American sounds and the infusion of early jazz and art songs coming from the kind of songs from American slaves and Black culture in that era coming up through people like Burley. And that is one of Erie's greatest contributions to the musical world to date. We're not done yet, is Dvorak's New World Symphony. So I hope people will come for that, also because it's just stunningly lush and beautiful. And we have Ravel's Piano Concerto with Sean Chen, who's this spectacular phenom piano player. Again, a very jazzy infused work. And this could almost be a pops concert. And then opening that is a piece by Jessie Montgomery, who's a woman today, a Black composer writing today. It's her work Strum, which is based on more of these spirituals and other things like that. And she's very much a voice of our generation. She's sort of one of the most engaged, most commissioned composers living today in America.
So what date is that, Bobby?
That's Saturday, March 21st. So next Saturday night.
Next Saturday night. Great.
On the pop side, we'll end our pop season with this great performer. I'll use the term lovingly, diva, Ashley Brown, who was with us a few years ago. For folks who went to our holiday concert in the arena, in that little back before COVID hit and when we were moving out of the Warner for renovations, she was our star soloist at that concert. And we loved her so much, we wanted to bring her back right away. And then for a couple of years, we couldn't, for the reasons you'll all remember and not want to remember. So we finally got her back. She originated the role of Mary Poppins on Broadway, and she's coming back in a show called Spoonful of Sugar. It's all of her favorite Broadway and Disney hits and our favorite Broadway and Disney hits. And she is spectacular. She's going to be coming. It's a great show for families. It's Saturday and Sunday, April 25th and 26th. Bring your kids, bring your parents, bring your grandparents. It's going to be one, you're going to know all the songs, you're going to love it. And it's from all these great classic era musicals and some contemporary ones. You'll hear a little Wicked right next to Kiss Me Kate. And you'll hear some great Disney tunes as well. And then we end the season on May 9th with perhaps, and I'm trying to get a confirmation on this, the largest assembling of musicians we've ever put on stage in Erie Philharmonic history, at least in modern history. It's Benjamin Britten's War Requiem. It's a serious piece. Benjamin Britten wrote this piece in the early 1960s, after World War II, for the reconsecration of a cathedral in England, in Coventry. The cathedral had been bombed out in World War II. In fact, that bombing is why Dresden got bombed. And they built a new cathedral right next to it, but they kept the ruins as a symbol of what war can do, the terrible devastation of war. And they asked Britten to write a piece specifically for this ceremony of consecrating the new cathedral. And he wrote a traditional Latin mass, but he also wove in text from an English poet named Wilfred Owen, who was in the trenches in World War I, and he was writing this gut-wrenching poetry about the devastation of war during World War I. And Owen's message was essentially, we can't let this happen again. And then here's Britten just a few decades later writing a piece because we let it happen again.
Yeah.
And it really is Benjamin Britten, who was a lifelong pacifist and a vocal one, in a plea for peace. And as the world continues to tear itself apart here, and of course we're standing here in the middle of a war or not war, depending on who you ask, in Iran, it has become increasingly poignant that we do this piece. And it is a massive undertaking. The orchestra is one of the largest orchestras we've contracted in a long time. Plus, we'll have 130 singers from the chorus on stage, 65 youth singers singing from the balcony. They represent the angels.
Wow.
And it's antiphonal, as we call it. They're singing from up in the balcony because that's where the angels would sing from, on high. And 3 incredible virtuoso soloists, and Daniel, of course. All of these forces coming together. And on that concert, we have what we call a side-by-side. 35 players from our top-tier junior Philharmonic will be playing with the orchestra for John Williams' Hymn to the Fallen from Saving Private Ryan at that concert. So all told, I'm nearly certain it's the most number of musicians we put on stage and in the hall for one performance. And it's a piece that doesn't get done often because it's really hard, it's really big, honestly, it's really expensive. And I'm hoping folks will come out not because they know Britten or know the War Requiem, but because it's just, you're never going to see this assembling of people for such an important work as that. And I have to say, when I was interviewing for this job last spring and I knew this was coming up, the guts and the talent and the skill it takes to do something like the War Requiem was one of the reasons I wanted to come to Erie. So Saturday, May 9th for that at the end of the season.
Fantastic. All right, let's jump. We have about 15 minutes, and let's get through this big season from October to May of 2027.
Yep.
Let's start with the symphonic series. Go.
You got it. So we open the season on October 10th with something we're calling Cinematic Splendor. These are not songs from movies. These are songs that sound like movies to us. These are songs that have this great cinematic feature. Each one of these pieces is a roller coaster ride of emotion. Khachaturian, it's the music from the Soviet era ballet Spartacus. Great dance music. It's not that it's not the Russian ballets you think of, but they will sound familiar because Spartacus has been used in a lot of places since it was written. Then we've got the Grieg Piano Concerto, which is one of these great, like top tier, most famous piano concerti. And Everin Oza, who's coming to play it, is spectacular. And then the Smetana Ma Vlast, which is these great. This is regional pride through and through. And people will recognize things like the Moldau. There's a lot of these familiar themes in there. So all told, that concert is just going to be sort of a sweep you off your feet, come for the ride. And if you don't know orchestral rep, don't worry about it. We like when you watch us, but if you come close your eyes and just let it wash over you, that's okay too.
Yes.
Then we go to November, and this one we're calling Gershwin Swings. We did title all of our concerts this year, by the way. We really enjoy these themes, and we wanted to emphasize them. This is centered around Gershwin's Piano Concerto in F. Now, a lot of people are familiar with the Concerto in F. Gershwin wrote a couple of great piano concertos. This is the second one, of course, on the success of his first. And Joyce Young, who's this incredible pianist, is coming to do this piece with us. It's one of the most played American piano concerti around. It's jazzy, it's fun, it's challenging, and it's just kind of a wild ride. We like that a lot. The Debussy Nocturnes are also on here. Not only does this have beautiful orchestral writing, but it features the sopranos and altos from the chorus.
Okay.
And they do all this ooh and ah in the background, and they kind of play like a section of the orchestra. They're not so much their own thing as part of the team. And it's fun to listen to those all come together. And then we've got a pioneering living composer, Carlos Simon, opening that program with a piece called 4 Black American Dances. It's exactly what it sounds like. They are 4 different traditional Black dances set to contemporary music. Simon's from Atlanta. His father is a preacher, and it's sort of imbued with that contemporary gospel-y sounding dance, Black spiritual music. And it's wonderful to get to showcase something like that. All told, this program sort of all has this physical movement emotion to it that's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, just the Simon piece, would that be somewhere on a recording, generally speaking?
It's a newer piece. It has been recorded because he's another one of these folks who's
they can find this on Spotify, probably?
Absolutely. And we're going to start over the summer here, spring into summer, pushing out more of these recordings in advance for the pieces that are less familiar. But yeah, that one is out there.
Okay. Just, because we're in a new world of recorded music, right?
Absolutely. Now, of course, what I always like to remind people is no recording is a substitute for feeling it live.
Right, of course.
But yes, if you want to do your homework, it's out there, and it's a treat. Then, as I mentioned earlier, in January, we'll open the new year with the Four Seasons. I don't know how much more to say about that other than you've heard all of this music before. Four Seasons is actually 4 concerti, one for each season. And it's a bit of a marathon for violinists to come in and do all 4. Chi-Yoon's coming back to do it. And she's just going to kill it. I mean, we already know her and we know this piece. You're going to hear the strings in their glory in something like Vivaldi in a way that they're not always in the spotlight. I mentioned earlier the Ginastera on that program. He's from Buenos Aires, and it has this great fun sound to it that you'd expect from someone from that part of the world. And then this Margaret Brower piece at the top, The Art of Sailing at Dawn. So again, we've got this contemporary feel matching the vibe of Vivaldi.
And it makes me wonder, again, the string section on, when they get a chance to do Vivaldi, which is very heavy strings, this is a joy for them.
And it's funny, we get a lot of requests from people to do that kind of piece. It doesn't always fit on our program because we want to show off the full orchestra. We want to do these big things. But for this one, we figured balancing it out with the Ginastera, those players who have some of those solos, they'll get a little bit of a break on the other half of the program. So that's good for them.
Beautiful.
In March, we've got a program we're calling Spring in England. And I have to tell you, this is a Daniel Meyer special. This is some of his favorite music. And again, it's his 20th anniversary season. So we wanted to have a little fun with that. He loves these English composers. And this really is a showcase of some pieces that are very familiar, like the Elgar Enigma Variations, which will be another one that people will know even if they don't know it. They'll know it when they hear it. And the Lark Ascending is this just stunning showcase for violin. And we thought, well, who's going to be a great fit for this? How about our very own Jimmy Thompson, who, in addition to being our concertmaster, is a mainstay of the Manhattan Chamber Players and does a lot of solo work in other places too. And we thought, well, he's great in that first chair. Let's get him to step up a few feet into the solo position. And he's really excited about that too, of course. And then there's a piece by Finzi that nobody's heard for Saint Cecilia, which is a stunning work for orchestra, chorus, and tenor soloist. And that's one of those ones where we like to dig a little bit deeper and give you one of those. It really shouldn't be a B-side. It should be an A-side. But, it's just because there's so much great music from that era, it gets lost a little bit. This is going to be like, classic symphonic radio play kind of program.
Yeah.
And we'll really bring it into its own in the Warner. And then we end the year with The Passion of Tchaikovsky. This is when we're doing Tchaikovsky 4, which is a piece that's known and beloved to orchestral audiences everywhere. And it's paired with a concerto that is as well, the Sanson Cello Concerto.
Hard to not cry when you hear Symphony No. 4.
Yeah. That's okay. There'll be tears of joy at the end.
Yeah.
You'll be glad for the season you just experienced at the end of the year, Joel. We'll get you in. And Sterling Elliott is a stunning cellist who is a Sphinx Award winner. The Sphinx organization is America's great proponent of Black and Latin composers and musicians. He'll be with us, and we're going to aim to do some education outreach with him this year. We do that with all of our soloists, but we're trying to add some extra master classes and things with Sterling. And we're opening that concert with a piece that might be familiar to a few longtime Erie symphonic fans. It's Moby Dick. It's a concertino by Peter Menon, who is Erie's great orchestral composer. He was born here. He wrote a lot of music. He was the longtime president of the Juilliard School. And we commissioned and premiered that piece right here. I believe it was Fritz Mahler who conducted the premiere, actually, 75 years ago.
Unbelievable.
This is going to be the 75th anniversary of Erie Philharmonic commission and premiere of that piece. It went on to be his most famous and most played work. He's done a lot. He's written plenty of symphonies. We're digging a little more into that history because I'd actually like to see us do a little bit more of that.
I want to say that there was connection between Handel and Menon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah.
For some reason, when I was a teenager and I was ushering at the Phil, that was known.
I think I just lied, actually. I think it was Handel who did the premiere, not Mahler. And there are Juilliard connections there, among other things.
That's got to be it.
He was, it is Menon's foot as an administrator that we were able to grow the Juilliard School. And really, that core component of American conservatory, it blossomed under his leadership, in addition to him being a great composer. And, those composers from that mid-century American realm that are not quite old enough to be old and not quite new enough to be new, sometimes they get lost in the mix.
Sure.
And we're going to do our part to make sure that Menon gets all the love he deserves, especially as a native of Erie.
Sounds like a great way to end the symphonic series.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. All right, going to the Pops.
Well, you want Survivor, we're not doing Survivor, but we are opening the Pop season at the end of September with the music of Elton John.
Neat.
Now, for folks who came out last year at the beginning of the season and heard Michael Cavanaugh do his tribute to Billy Joel, which was a smash hit. I can't remember the last time people were clapping that loud in the hall. I think we had lighters swaying at one point. This was an absolute blast. People singing along, screaming and dancing in the aisles. We had, by audience mandate, had to bring Cavanaugh back for Elton John. I was up at the post office a couple weeks after that concert, and somebody stopped me in the middle of State Street to say, hey, that guy, I heard he's got an Elton John show. You got to have him back. And you asked, we listened, he's coming. 2 shows, September 26th and 27th, to open the Pop season. We couldn't not have him back. He is a riot. And I had worked with him before I got here, so I already knew he was good. But man, he's only gotten better with age. And we're so excited for the Elton John show. Then we get to October, the weekend before Halloween. Seemed like an appropriate time to do Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, live to film.
Okay, live to film.
So this is another one where the movie will be on the screen. This is, Danny Elfman score. Now remember, Danny Elfman, 80s rocker, turned orchestral compositions for movies, and now he's actually writing a lot for orchestral rep too. He's got a trumpet concerto in the works. He did Buffalo actually just did a percussion concerto of his a couple weeks ago here. So it's a different feel of film composition, but it's still such good music. He's so thoughtful, he's so good, but he's also so much fun. It's the rocker in him. He gets how to do it. And of course, this movie, in addition to being a holiday season favorite between Halloween and Christmas, also has this great Tim Burton cult following.
Sure.
So we're really excited to get that on stage and also to do something for Halloween for a change of pace. So that'll be really fun. Nightmare Before Christmas. Tickets are going to go fast for that one. Then we get to the holidays, first weekend of December. We could come home for the holidays, our great holiday Pops tribute every year.
Get your tickets now.
Yeah, because it will sell out. It always does. We do 2 shows. Always a blast. And of course, this is with the youth chorus and with dancers and Santa, and all of the stars come out, and we'll have some other special guests. If you've never heard the Phil do sleigh ride, that's right.
It's the tradition, right?
I'm going to get you the big clap Yeah.
No. Yeah. I'd screw it up. Bobby.
In the spring, we come back in February with a concert that we've been really excited about. This one's been burning up the charts in other places. It's a program called Clouds in My Coffee, and it's a singer-songwriter tribute to the music of Joni Mitchell, Carole King, and Carly Simon. It absolutely resonates with cool. with that Gen X crowd, or perhaps the millennials who were born like Gen Xers like me. This is the music of a generation, right? Mm-hmm. And of female empowerment, of the sort of mainstays of adult contemporary radio now. I mean, these songs defined a generation of popular music in our country and in the world. And I got to tell you, sometimes we look around and we just say, what is killing it in other places that we have to get here? Pittsburgh had this show and it was just rave reviews. Buffalo had the show, it was rave reviews. And we said, well, we have to be next. Clouds in My Coffee, it comes with 3 incredible singers who take turns singing through these songbooks. You're going to know the words to every song. And if you don't, your parents do. Bring your parents, bring your kids. This is another one of those shows that just fills the heart, makes us feel incredible. And I'm so excited for this one. And, for those of you who don't know the lyrics to You're So Vain, that's where Clouds in My Coffee comes from. Is it about Robert Redford? Who knows? Yeah, maybe, probably. I
always thought it was about Warren Beatty.
Oh, maybe. We're going to have a lot of fun with that one. Yeah. And that one is actually not conducted by Daniel. We're going to give him a little bit of rest next year. Ted Sperling, who's this sort of rock star of pop's conducting. This is one of his traveling shows. Okay. And Ted's going to come conduct it for us. So you're going to get to see and meet him, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then at the end of the year, for our Grand Pops finale in April, we are reprising a program we've done in different ways a couple times before. This is the best of Broadway. And it features our great local talent here in Erie. There are so many good singers and actors in our Erie community. And as great as it is to bring in these celebrity pop stars from across the world, sometimes it's nice to remember that we've got great talent here at home too. Kate Thiem, who's of course a mainstay at the Playhouse and is a great friend of the Phil, she is going to be helping us assemble an all-star cast of Erie area performers who are going to pick their favorite and our favorite hits from Broadway. You're going to get a lot of contemporary stuff, and you're going to get some of those classic golden age Broadway hits all on stage together for a night that is going to be just unforgettable. I mean, I know the last time we did this was before I got here, and I heard the rave reviews from that. Mm-hmm. And for us as Erie's orchestra and as a leader in the arts in Northwest Pennsylvania, it's so important for us to remember all the great talent we have here. It's what we do with the Junior Phil. It's what we do with our chorus. And it's a great opportunity to showcase that talent. So we thought about, hey, should we get some New York Broadway stars? Should we get some of those folks to come in and do a review? And we said, we don't need them. We've got that talent right here.
No doubt.
And it's, thanks to the Playhouse, thanks to the other folks who do these types of shows, we have this incredible pool to draw from, and we're so excited to do it. This whole season lineup through and through is one that, I think is indicative of Daniel. I think it's celebratory of his 20th anniversary season. We're going to have a whole lot of fun. And I do want to plug one other concert that's not on your card.
Go ahead.
Every year we do Handel's Messiah. And every year it sells out at Church of the Covenant. And we love our friends at Church of the Covenant, but we need more space. So the weekend after Thanksgiving, Sunday, I believe it's the 29th of November at 3:00, we will be doing Handel's Messiah at the Warner Theater.
Wow.
With the full chorus on stage and the orchestra on stage and a huge crowd. And we hope that everyone will use this as a chance to start the Christmas season with this great masterwork. And everyone knows Handel's Messiah.
No doubt.
Right? We just realized that with demand out the door, it's our job to make room for as many people as we can. And so we're going to make it grow. We could only fit a smaller number of singers on stage at the church. We could only fit a smaller orchestra on stage. And we said, we're going to blow the doors off this time. So in addition to our full symphonic and pop seasons, we're adding that as an extra large community engagement event. We want everyone to come out. The tickets are affordably priced. I believe they're $25, $35. It's going to be open for everyone. And we really just want to see how many people come out for it.
Bobby, we're out of time. I appreciate it so much. I am so excited for this new season. Congratulations.
Me too. And you can learn more at eriephil.org.
Beautiful. Back after the news, it's Talk Erie.